Games, Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life here with episode 2 of The Nasties. Hopefully you'll have checked out episode 1, which was, you can say the title.
And to Anthropophagus.
The Beast. Yeah. We did that one in episode 1. Mm-hmm. Episode 2 we announced, the last one was, of course, Evilspeak.
Say that one.
Evilspeak, nice and easy to say. 1981 horror movie that was released with 3 minutes 34 seconds cut in 1987 and finally released uncut in 2004. If you want to know more about Video Nasties, go and watch our opening very first video. That will tell you everything from our perspective about it. We are talking about Evilspeak. It was one of the prosecuted Video Nasties in the 80s. Reclassified in 1999, but with even more cuts for that point as well. Most of the gore cut from the climax. That was a major part of it. Yeah. However, watching it with today's eyes, it's very hard to pinpoint exactly why Evilspeak was cut.
Yeah, it feels tame compared to what I've seen.
It is tame compared to many of the others. What you end up going with is a lot of the satanic references. That a lot of the ending sequence, the over-the-top, insane ending sequence, is very, very gory, very violent, very protracted as well. Yeah, it is not a short scene, and it takes place inside a church. Burning crosses, very heavy on the Satan as well. So much so that apparently Anton LaVey, the late founder and high priest of the Church of Satan, was a great fan of this film and considered it to be very satanic.
Nice.
So you've got
so you can give it 5 stars.
Very satanic.
The little the thingy stars.
The pentagram.
Yeah, what they are, pentagrams.
Yeah. It's interesting as well. Got this little bit of information now. Actor Clint Howard, who stars as Cooper Smith Stanley in the movie, so the director Eric Weston's original version of the film was submitted to the MPAA, was longer, contained more blood, gore and nudity than the unrated version of this film, especially during the shower pig attack scene and the final confrontation. And to date, this version of the film has never been released on Blu-ray, VHS or DVD. So we have got the Blu-ray. We watched the Blu-ray copy. It comes with a whole host of extra stuff, including an introduction by Eric Weston, the director, audio commentary with Eric Weston, Clint Howard, and location manager, an interview with Clint Howard, interview with actor Don Stark, and an interview with actor Joseph Cortez. It also comes with a making of, which is pretty cool. Kind of thing to sort of see. Effects, talking effects with the effects director.
We'll mention something along that.
We will. Yeah, we'll get to a few unfortunate ones. Original theatrical trailer, 88 films trailer reveal, and a versatile sleeve incorporating the original artwork is inside this.
I like the original artwork better than that.
The VHS one, if you picture it, it's like Clint Howard's character, sort of at a computer, head up, that kind of thing, hair gone wild, similar to how he is at the end of the film. But it's a memorable movie because it doesn't fit amongst many of the other Video Nasties. For starters, the era it was released and created in is the 80s. So when you think of Video Nasties, you tend to think of, I don't know, well, maybe you still think of some 80s, but you tend to think of the late 70s. That sort of Italian gore exploitation movies. They call them giallas. I can't ever say the word. This doesn't fit amongst them. And even watching it now, as we already said, it's hard to really see this one. It's clear why it's now uncut.
Yeah.
There's nothing in this that we wouldn't get way more extreme only a couple of years later after this was released uncut. So this was released uncut in 2004. How many years after Hostel? 2006, 2007? Yeah. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And I would argue things like Hostel are way more.
Yeah, I mean, could say there's prolonged scenes and things like that. And this just comes across some of it's quite tongue in cheek. Sometimes the soundtrack goes a bit sort of slapsticky.
Yep.
Casting Clint Howard, because he's got quite a comedic
who's
face.
Done so many slapstick horror movies in the past, so many. And in the future would do. Well, not in the past, actually, say in the future, in fact, because it was quite young in this. So we're going to go, as we did before, we're going to recap the plot. So basically, the star is Clint Howard as Stanley Cooper Smith, who is attending a military academy. Before that, jumping ahead, we have a cold opening, so to speak, where we witness a, what's his name? Esteban.
Because I get the thinking of Gloria Estefan, and I realise it's not. It's completely not. But
Esteban, who's a priest who's been excommunicated from the church in Spain. It happens on a beach. Bishop comes along, tells them basically, you're evil, you're bad, you and your followers can fuck off.
And they do.
Esteban spits in his face. while looking suitably evil. And then we get kind of a ritual thing happening at a beach with his followers where, you know, you get some nudity if that's your jam, female nudity. And that's...
I found the most annoying about that. He broke up what's the wafer,
the body of Christ.
Yeah, broke up that in her hair.
Yeah.
That really offended me. You had crumbs in your hair. I'd be like, can you not?
She looked out of it. I'm sure she was fine with it. But yeah, it ends when he basically swings the sword. And in a cut version, this is where it would cut. In an uncut version, it switches to a quite obvious mannequin. And her head being chopped off. It's gory because you see quite like torn flesh and blood, but it's clearly a mannequin. It's not great.
You could have the eyes closed. I think would have made more of an effect because the eyes open. It just focus on
it's
more.
It's not a great effect. We can't really praise it too heavily. And we jump the modern times this movie, and we introduce Stanley Cooper Smith, Clint Howard, who
Klutz.
He's a klutz, basically. It's on a football pitch, and we mean soccer for you Americans. They're playing football, but they clearly don't know the fucking rules because it appears to be next goal wins because they score and the game just ends. And later the coach refers to it as 4 quarters.
Weird.
That's not football. That's not soccer. That's not football. That's, you know, we do halves.
Yeah.
First half, second half.
Yeah.
The only time I was like, last goal wins extra time, but then like, they can't even get the quarters and halves right. They're not doing that.
So it's some sort of version of it, yeah.
So yeah, they score. Anyway, Cooper Smith he's klutz. He's rubbish at football, and he's getting bullied by a group that includes the likes of trying to remember the names now. Bubba. Yeah, Bubba Caldwell's the leader. He's the most important one, played by Don Stark. Pretty good in it actually as well.
Yeah. I hated him.
Best thing about these bullies, we were not going to recap everything they do, but the best thing about them is that you really dislike them. Yeah. You really dislike them. So you look forward to them getting their comeuppance.
They're relentless.
They're relentless.
There's like a major thing for me that I was like, that's why I hate you.
And as bad as they are, they never do anything over the top for a while. It's bullying shit. It's throwing his hat away. It's teasing him. It's, calling him names. It's stuff like that. But it's not just them that make Cooper Smith's life a hell. There's some military people in it who make his life very difficult as well. The coach of the football team really doesn't want him to play, but has been told he has to play.
Because it doesn't fit, does he? It doesn't fit the mould of the jock.
No,
jock.
It's Clint Howard, guys. You know what he looks like. But in this, he's a little bit overweight. He's very clumsy. They make a very strong point of him constantly knocking into things in almost every room he goes in. I said to you while we were watching it, slow down, Cooper Smith. If you stopped rushing everywhere, you'd probably be... But he's constantly rushing because he's constantly late, constantly sweaty, constantly unkempt. He does brilliantly. I must say Clint Howard is brilliant in this for getting across that clumsiness. Yeah. Really does. But the biggest problem for him is Kurt the Colonel, played by Charles Tyner, who really doesn't like him. In a sort of walk around, he's putting him down to a parent and things like that. But because it's Miller's Academy, you've got to try and, make these boys into men. That's kind of the thing. So the bullies have carte blanche almost to get away with everything. Even though they don't do it in front of like the teachers, because they're not that stupid.
Yeah, there's still like that lack of...
It's like every time Cooper Smith ends up in a situation, it's clear something's happening. And their teachers just blame him.
Yeah.
So eventually he gets punished and is told to go and clean the cellar of the church. And the church is Reverend Jameson, played by Joe Cortez. It's weird here. His character's one is a bit of a funny one. Early on it implies he might be a bit more, maybe not such a Christian priest. Yeah. Particularly as in this church we have a framed picture of Esteban, which is never really tied up. There's a scene later on where he looks like he loses his cool and a mask almost slips. But by the end, it amounts to nothing. Yeah. Which is a bit of a mute plot point. I would have liked them to sort of him to reveal himself later on to Cooper Smith. And sort of then encourage Cooper Smith to continue the Satanism path.
Well, maybe it's kind of... That's obviously where it all happened. Like, it was based there. But it could have just been like the painting's always been there. And obviously in church...
You don't,
do they argue much? No, do you think it's just painting to show the good and evil?
It's true, because he also tells a story later on, a little bit later on, where he talks about Esteban, but in a different light. Yeah. Saying that they escaped the Inquisition. And we know it wasn't that because we saw it. But that's the tale that's been told. Well, of course you'd keep it. Who cares if he looks evil as fuck? Yeah, just keep it. You'd be like, oh, that's a hero. Yeah. But anyway, Cooper Smith is forced to clean up the basement. There he runs afoul of another nasty bit of work in Sarge, who's a drunk, and is kind of just kept around because he's military.
Yeah.
Played by R.J. Armstrong. He's really good in this as well. Very sinister, nasty bit of work, you know. While cleaning up, Cooper Smith, in a really clever way, finds a hidden passage.
Yeah.
It's really cleverly done. And he goes through this hidden passage and basically finds Esteban's lair.
Yeah, we would, yeah.
Yeah, and he finds it's a satanic altar in there, all books about it and stuff. And he finds one special book that basically was Esteban's diary. He's got a jewel on the front and so on. Fascinated by it, he starts to read it, starts to become more interested in it. But while still suffering the wrath of the bullies. While visiting the colonel, he loses the book. It gets dropped in the trash by accident, which is picked up by the colonel's secretary. As kind of a side plot point, but just to add a bit of violence into it, because later on in the movie, she would get nude, pretty much nude, in her apartment. So you get lots of female nudity there. Have a shower, and her attempts to remove the jewel of the book causes angers Esteban, who sends his pig armies, pigs, boars, into her house, and they basically kill her in the shower. And you get a brief snippet, another part that was cut, of them like ripping into her flesh.
Yeah, you can tell like they was supposed to be a bit longer because it was literally just like they pull one bit.
Yeah, and then it cuts. So that's that side angle. The book ends up back in the hands of Cooper Smith, who has become so obsessed with it that almost what's happened, it's never quite explained, but how I read it is that he's putting translations of the diary, which is in Latin, into the computer, and he's getting them, and through that he's basically uploading Esteban's essence, satanic essence, into the computer system. So he ends up moving the computer system down into the lair to continue his work, and basically decides to conjure up Satan.
Yeah.
But it can't quite work out what it needs. It needs more, and basically it comes down to two specific things: blood and the host, consecrated host, so the body of Christ. And that's where we kind of stop for a bit. We get kind of stopped there for a bit because Cooper Smith isn't really going to go. He tries the consecrated host, but blood becomes the problem, and he doesn't really go any further than that. And we kind of then get distracted by him going to get something to eat, meeting the cook who appeared in The Godfather of all films. We disputed that.
That's right, Luca Brasi.
And basically, he shows him a dog and hit the pups, and one of the pups is a runt of the litter, gonna die because it can't fight for the milk. Cooper Smith decides to take it. A terrible idea. He's in a military academy, but at least he doesn't try to keep it in his fucking dorm room. Yeah, he takes it and keeps it down in the cellar. And there's kind of, there's a bit of bonding between him and the dog. Dog's cute.
Oh, don't. It's like traumatic.
Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah. Oh.
So basically, at a football game, a rally where there's like a Miss Pageant thing as well. Really odd, really inappropriate and odd thing. Leads to drinking and partying afterwards. The bullies all end up going down to the cellar to drink. By this point, Sarge is dead. He tried to attack Cooper Smith in the cellar, and basically Esteban's essence snapped his neck, twisted it around. Good effect as well.
See, I'd put that on the list of things because that was pretty like quite.
It slowly turns around and then snaps. It's quite well done.
Yeah, so I'd put it on a list of not liking that if I was a person reviewing this.
And while hiding the body, Cooper Smith discovers what effectively was where they all died. He finds the grave of Esteban and all his followers' skeletons around it. It's one of those horrible cult kind of scenes. Yeah. So we hide Sarge's body there. While at the game, he gets humiliated again and then falls afoul of the colonel again. And the bullies head off down into the cellar and discover Cooper Smith's hidden lair. He's been hiding it behind like a screen. Yeah. In there, they kind of explore and look around, find the dog, and decide to complete the ritual. Yeah. And it's clear they get taken over here, by the essence of Esteban, because they all become bloodthirsty, encouraging Bubba to kill the dog. And they're going kill, and then basically, as he stabs into the dog, it cuts away.
They didn't show that.
They didn't show any of that. They didn't show it. It's always focused on Bubba's face, so the dog isn't there. There's no concern of animal cruelty here.
No. I'm quite glad because that was traumatic enough.
In fact, and then you sort of see it flash up on the screen of the computer, human blood, meaning they were fooled. And it makes sense because during this scene we keep cutting back to Cooper Smith who's in bed, and he's almost reached breaking point.
Yeah.
The bullying, the abuse, the constant taunts, plus the influence of Esteban really are fucking with his mind. And he kind of realised that, Esteban encourages guys to kill the dog to push Cooper Smith over the edge, which it does.
Yeah.
Because Cooper Smith later then comes back and finds blood everywhere and finds the body of the dog. He's traumatised, holding the body of this dog.
That's a really well done thing, because I got really upset. Because it's like, because literally he's got absolutely no one. Absolutely no one, but this little dog. Oh, no.
Yeah, and they killed him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd ban it for that. It's awful.
So with that, he decides to complete the ritual. Yeah. And it's actually his teacher. I don't remember the teacher's name, but his German teacher. Hauptmann by Hamilton Camp, played by Hamilton Camp, who comes looking for Cooper Smith, finds the lair, comes down, and Cooper Smith kills him and impales him on this kind of hanging chandelier. Blood drips down to a cup. And Cooper Smith drinks it.
What you need, isn't it?
Now, basically, this is all leading up to a big, important football game. So everyone major character who's a dick in this movie. So all the bullies, the coach, the colonel, and even the reverend are in church right now doing a sort of like a pre-prayer thing, a pre-mass before the big game.
Quite pretty, like, really?
Yeah. It's quite. It's all sports orientated.
Yeah.
So basically, and it's while he's doing this that Cooper Smith's doing his stuff below the church. And the first indication is it focuses on the body of Christ on the crucifixion, and a pulse starts appearing in his wrist, and then the nail that holds his hand in place starts to come out and drips like liquid. It's not blood; it's dark liquid onto the thing, which gets the attention of the priest and everyone else. And he sort of stands back, and the first death comes here. So we're at the ending. We're at the famous ending of Evilspeak. That's over the top, completely, almost out of tone with the entirety of the movie. And the spike comes flying out, hits the priest in the head, kills him.
Yeah, that was cool.
Everyone panics, but the doors are locked. Then Cooper Smith erupts from the floor, hair flowing, flying in the air.
See, I find that quite tacky looking.
It's very silly looking. It doesn't help that Cooper Smith, Clint Howard's face, the face he puts on is very odd. Just like,
it's all very, and it did remind me a bit. It was a very kind of Carrie-esque way of ending a film.
Yep.
Doors closed. The bully people that have tormented and bullied her.
To a point. But I think,
of course, yeah. There's some elements of it, I thought.
So he's floating. He's got the sword, and the very first next death is the colonel. And this is quite a graphic scene as he hits him with the sword, and his head just explodes.
Yeah.
And he's all the bits hanging down, the chunks and all that. It's quite graphic, which then leads all the pigs to come roaring out of the floor.
Yep.
You get a mixture here of real pigs, and whenever it's a close-up shot of someone...
Puppets.
Yeah, puppets. Well done, puppets. Look good.
Yeah.
When they're ripping and tearing into the flesh of these boys. So basically, everybody kind of gets to come up and say they either get eaten by pigs, burned in the fire, or Cooper Smith decapitates them with the sword. Yep. All leading to Bubba, who manages to escape into this cellar, where he then gets... he thinks he's escaped, but it's kind of like, you're in a dead end, mate. Where are you going? And Sarge reanimates from the dead and grabs him by the throat, holds him up, reaches into his chest and rips out his still beating heart. And that's how everyone dies.
Yeah. I cheered at that part, Bubba. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, they deserve it.
Get what you deserve.
It's very, very hard to not have any sympathy. No one deserves the graphic nature and the bullying they did. The thing is, you can't be mad at them for killing a dog. They were clearly possessed. They weren't going to do that.
Yeah. They were some knobs, though.
They were knobs, but that does not mean you deserve to get eaten alive by pigs. Yeah. Or your heart ripped out by a zombie Sarge. And the last sort of moving shot of the movie is one of those all worrying things for parents, as burning crosses and the main stone cross explodes and comes crashing down inside the church. It's very evil. Very, very evil. And then you get some text pop up basically saying that in the eyes of the authority, Stanley Cooper Smith was catatonic and completely affected by surviving this massacre, and had been incarcerated in a mental hospital since then. And then it's like, I, Stanley Cooper Smith, will return in a similar way that Esteban did the typing on the computer. And that's how Evilspeak ends. A movie of a time, very 80s.
Yeah, I found it, say certain parts of the soundtrack made me think of sort of slapstick. Like them sort of bursts of it, and I was like, okay. And like Clint Howard's got very cartoony. Some of the bullies are almost quite caricatural-esque.
Yep.
Like the main one, Bubba. It's quite exaggerated features. You can picture him being drawn.
Okay, I like that.
Like you got the fat one. You got like the dumb-witted one that's like almost at the door during the first part of the dog part.
Yep.
He's almost at the door, and you think, oh, is he going to run away? And he's just like at the door, and you think, oh, he's the coward at the door. Yeah, I found it kind of. And it was of a time, the whole 80s, it does feel very 80s.
Yeah.
But then when you say, like, when you look at it as, like, the whole fearful thing of kids being influenced by these films and satanic music, and that was all for the time, was it? The whole Judas Priest thing.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
the music side of things being looked at. This makes a lot of sense with the whole religious element.
Yeah, while it has got gore, it mostly is all kept to the end. And by today's standards, I don't think there's anything particularly shocking. I think what it is, and why this movie is so notorious, is because the ending is so out of tone with a lot of what's in the rest of the movie.
Yeah, definitely.
There was a certain point during it, I think I said to you, you wouldn't believe this was a video nasty, would you?
Yeah, because I was watching all the way through going, there's a couple of references to bits and pieces. I'm like, but there's nothing. And then even at the end, I was like, when you look at the religious element, that is overriding feature. That's
the overriding feature, is how satanic orientated this movie is. It not only that as well, let's look at it from this perspective. If you're a child in the real world who's been bullied and downtrodden and beaten up, what does this film suggest?
Yeah, Satan's like an option.
Satan, yeah, you know what I mean? Look at this bullied and oppressed guy. He called upon Satan and got revenge on those who oppressed him.
But I'm looking back on I know I read the Carrie reference. There was a little bit of a religious element to that, with the mother being religious. But Carrie herself wasn't. So did that kind of go under the radar? Because some of the kids in that film died quite nasty ways in the end scene of Carrie.
Yeah, but you got to remember, these were movies that were using a loophole to get away with being unrated. Carrie may not have done that. Carrie certainly did not, you know what I mean? Like, Carrie would have been BBFC'd and given its rating.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Evilspeak was one of the prosecuted films. That's the thing. It's not one that it wasn't just one on the list. It was one of the 39 prosecuted films. So, and it was heavily cut for a very, very long time. By today's standard, it's tame.
Yeah.
I've seen other satanic movies around this era, some earlier. And they're heavy on the Satan stuff as well. This is so heavy on it, though. There is almost... And the problem, I think, is that it arguably shines a positive light on it, as I said.
Yeah, and I think...
Where's Cooper Smith's comeuppance?
Yeah.
Ultimately, he's the villain. Esteban, Cooper Smith... He's all right, Cooper Smith's a puppet.
Yeah.
Esteban's the villain.
He's a tragic character. He's got
Where's
no one.
the comeuppance for the Satanist?
Well, he's still in a mental asylum. It's not having a great...
No, but you know what I mean? Yeah. Who actually gets the comeuppance in the end? Bullies, a head coach who doesn't like Cooper Smith. Do you mean, can you really be mad as well about people in the military putting discipline on you and stuff like that?
Yeah,
that's kind of what their role is. Yeah. So it's a very, very odd balance. I think they didn't quite nail of like, all right, you want to feel sorry for Cooper Smith.
I think having the dog theme part of it to make you feel for Cooper Smith, because otherwise you would be like, oh, he's just like...
But then perhaps they should have not had the bullies seemingly possess. Make them be nasty fucks that did that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that's a real state. But then, you know what I mean? That stuff never really bothers me because I know it's not real. So I'm not sitting there going, if they want to kill a dog on the screen, a puppet dog and fake dog to create an emotion, no worries.
Yeah, because it worked on me.
Because it's not a real dog.
I know.
We will get to, God almighty, when we get to the Nasties, to have the animal abuse ones.
Oh, Christ.
Oh, God, when we get to them, we were going to have something to say about that.
Yeah.
But for the stuff like this... but what it is it's wonderfully directed. It's a well shot movie. It really love how tight it often feels. For taking place in the military academy, they keep things really tight, focused on certain rooms. The set design's lovely.
Yeah,
I love the lair.
It made it feel like it. Yeah, and it felt like it. I like the whole idea that he kept on going back to it, and he felt safe there. The fact that he felt safe to leave the dog there, and like brought the computer down and made it like his little, because it was more of a protective environment for him, because when they showed him in his dorm, it literally just 2 walls. It
was a safe place for him. It was a safe space for Cooper Smith to go, and you get it.
And he said that he had 2 allies in that film. He had his friend, and he had, I can't remember his friend's name.
No, I can't either.
Kowalski.
Oh yeah, played by Haywood Nelson. Criminally overused though as a character. The bond was never really believable for me.
Yeah, they should have done maybe.
Because every time he talked to Cooper Smith would just be like, "Oh, leave it, man," and whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I never really got that bond for him. You know.
But he was the only one that was there for him, and the cook was the only one that showed him any kind of like.
Yeah.
Kind of break, really.
It was good to have the cook, what's call it, as a lighter character, someone who wasn't a bad guy for once.
And he wasn't a soppy character. Like, he wasn't just like, "Oh, come give me a hug," and that. He was like, he offered him food. He said, "I'll take over doing this job. You'll go off and
Yeah, go give the dog. Yeah.
Yeah, like you give him some bones and just a little bit of effect, like a bit of a nice presence,
Yeah.
Which is good because you can't have all. It's unbelievable.
It starts to weigh you down of everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, ultimately, as we said already, from the video nasty perspective, the Satanist themes, and I guess the positive, that loose, and I use the term inverted commas loosely, positive references to Satanism is what ultimately would have really, really got us attention. As we said already, it is gory, but I don't think there's anything over the top.
Yeah.
I think maybe the pig, because it's pigs eating flesh.
Yeah.
Pigs will do that in real life.
Oh yeah, we've learned that.
I think that might be a bit of an issue in itself as well.
Yeah, because it kind of takes it from the fantasy world.
It stops being fantastical and becomes, that shit would happen in real life.
Yeah.
A hungry pig is going to eat you.
Whatever, yeah. If you fall into its pen and the pigs are hungry,
you're dead. Yeah, and I think that's a big part of it as well. But it is a good movie. It is a fun throwback movie of a certain time. I think it's enjoyable.
I really enjoyed it. I do get a bit silly about when you get attached to a pet in a film, and I'm like, woof. But I think it was part of the story. You had to have that kind of compassion for him. But yeah, it did feel kind of comedy-esque. I say that look at the look of him. That's obviously why they cast him. But the more I'm gonna say, the more we're going to watch these films, the more you'll go, this is clearly why.
Yeah.
This is clearly why. And we've had two easy ones to start with. We've been eased into this.
Yeah.
Anthropophagus was a good start, and that was pretty tame as well, apart from the one scene we discussed. And this as well, just the overly heavy satanic references, and not in a negative, oh God, don't follow the devil. So I'm looking, when we get to the ones like you say, with the cruelty and stuff that you can't dismiss, you're going to be like, it's going to be hard.
I agree. Yeah, the first two, the one we did in episode 1, Evilspeak, this one, we've had to analyse it afterwards and go, well, what do we think? What do we think? And it's maybe this and maybe that. You can find, we're making a kind of point to not read too heavily up online afterwards about it, because the idea is we want to get our actual thoughts and opinions across on this. But that's Evilspeak for you. It's one of the legendary ones, and there's a reason why I said you can get these lovely ass Blu-ray versions of these kind of movies, is because they are kind of infamous. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com, as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon and help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?